guys, I came out of my big crash yesterday, so no riding allowed for 4 weeks. Not quite sure I'm going to stick to that, but we'll see. So my coach Andrea is teaching a clinic this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We always have lessons on a Friday, and then she often teaches clinics every 4 to 6 weeks on Saturdays and Sundays. So instead of me having lessons with her, she's going to ride Danny for me. And so let's have a look. We are going to see how we do this. I'll chat over while she's going and kind of just give you an idea of what she's doing. What Andrea's doing at the moment, she's trotting around on a loose rein. Danny's an older horse, he's just turned 18, so you might notice some coughing and spluttering. It's not because he's sick, it's just with him getting a little bit older, he does tend to have cobweb. I have had the vet check him out and double make sure it's not COPD or a different airway problem that he could be developing. It doesn't seem like it, so we've kind of just managed it. He also doesn't really cough and splutter while he's working, so it's just really the first 1 or 2 minutes, which is why we give him the opportunity to trot around like this on a long range to just clear his throat.
Classic.
Danny likes to not be through on both reins, so he likes to be not quite in your left hand, not quite in your right hand. So you often need to bring him back to walk just to re-establish the contact. You'll see he's being quite difficult about it, and she'll just bring him back to walk and just re-establish the straightness. And then once she's got the straightness in the walk, then she'll move it into the trot. We've tried to do it differently. This just seems to work the best for him and gives us the best results throughout a schooling session. So this is how I would warm him up to. You'll notice he can also be very heavy in the front, quite normal for him, that's how he's built. Up until probably about a year ago, every single time I used to get the comment that the horse is on the forehand and not being in self-carriage. It's one of those things that I've learned to just deal with. I've decided, you know, he'll carry himself as much as he can carry himself, and as much as he can carry himself, I allow that and I help the rest. So you'll notice that she's having to do quite a bit of work in the front. He is difficult, he's not a young horse, so you know, even though you'd like to ride him as correctly as possible and as quietly as possible, he's one of those horses who just needs some help in the front, just loosening up, and then a lot of help to try and shift the weight onto his back legs rather than him just pulling from the front. He is a warm blood, so he's less likely to do that than many of the thoroughbreds I've met, but he is also very heavy in the front. He was a stallion up until about 5 years ago, so he was 14 when we gelded him, which is why he tends to be so muscular. You'll also notice that he's got a flash on. His flash is not there to keep his mouth quiet, his flash is more there to keep the bit stable. We've got the flash quite loose at the moment. Once he really starts working, then we'll tighten it up to just one hole. Again, it's still open enough that he probably could open his mouth quite wide if he wanted to. I don't believe that horses should have their mouths strapped shut. For him, it's just to help him keep his jaw a little bit quiet. So you'll notice he's being very, very difficult. Currently he actually looks like a bit of a novice horse. But he also hasn't been in the arena for around 12 days since I got sick and broke my hand. So we're just going to play and just settle him down. I'll leave it up to Andrea. She knows him well enough to know what she can ask and what she can't ask.
Power.
You'll notice, especially down the long side, and it's much more visible in the canter than it is in the trot. He wiggles, he tries to duck out in the shoulder, and then when you bring the shoulder back in line, he tries to duck out with the hind leg. So this horse, he's very, very differently muscled on the left and the right. So with this horse, most of the schooling, most of the training is just about keeping him straight. just Andrea doesn't keep going for ages and ages and ages in exactly the same rhythm and exactly the same pace. He kind of gets into a bit of a robot mode where he just kind of keeps trotting along and then he switches off. So with him you have to do tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of transitions. This is the stronger leg because the right hind leg is much stronger than the left hind leg. The problem on this rein is he's very, very bendy at the base of his neck. So you kind of have to do a lot of work to keep the neck straight. And then in the process sometimes he's learned that if he flips his head out, that you then grab on the inside rein. Well, that's my advice. So it's really, really hard to keep him straight on this rein, even though this is the stronger canter leg. Other thing we need to remember, guys, is he hasn't been in the arena for about 12 days. So the chances are he's lost some of his fitness. He's quite a big, bulky warm blood. He tends to lose his fitness very, very quickly. And when he's competing very seriously, it's a lot of work to have him fit enough to compete. So again, you'll just see Danny try and duck out with the shoulder, then grab on the inside rein, and then have it be corrected again. And then when he does try and duck out, he kind of does it in twofold. So he doesn't just duck out the shoulder, he also tries to run out from under you. And then it's really hard to sit. You'll see Andrea does sometimes come out the saddle. And that's because he's learned how to kind of manipulate the rider into making it as easy as possible for him. And it's just been the last year and a half we've just been working on me being correct and him then having to do the work and be correct underneath me, which I think sometimes is harder work for him. But we're getting there, you know. I think people often forget that even though he is 18, this has been my first big proper dressage horse. So this has been the horse that I've learned on. And he wasn't a medium horse when I bought him, he was a novice horse. So, you know, it's a learning curve, and I'm very grateful for him because he is quite forgiving. When I do make mistakes, he's willing to forgive me for them and not get upset at me. I do know horses that aren't as forgiving as he is. So even though he'll never be a 75% horse, I'm okay with that. You know, I didn't buy him so that he could win me national championships. I bought him so that I could learn. He's not an easy ride in the sense that you have to push exactly the right button for exactly the right reaction. And his sitting trot's quite big and quite bouncy. The trot itself is very big. And the canter is very comfortable, but he can suck behind your leg a little bit. And then I've found that the flying changes then become very, very hard. So it has been a bit of a management issue in terms of me learning how to ride it, and constantly as he progresses and his body changes and he muscles up, having to change little things about how I ride him. But I suppose that's part of the game, and that's why I will never forget Dr. Rainer Klimke said when you retire from riding, and this is a guy who started riding at the age of 5, he said, look, I could live another 5 lifetimes like this one and still not know everything that there was to know. And you'll notice now that she's done some work, even though there's still bits that he does brace his neck against her, much more of it is correct. So what I think ends up happening is as he settles and as he kind of warms up into his frame, the rest gets better, and then what he loses because he gets a little bit tired or because it's hard. and you'll see there he pops up in the transitions, and that's very, very normal. I often have to overthink the transitions, and then I overthink the transitions way too much, and then he does it anyway. Yeah. So you'll notice now, compared to what she had in the beginning, Andrea's now put a bit more power in. This is the advantage of being able to sit him better. He backs off me because I can't sit the trot, so he helps me out. But now, you know, we're a little bit stuck in a situation where he kind of doesn't believe that someone can sit the power, where I think this is so good for someone who's more experienced to ride him, to remind him that it's okay to be flashy and big and bold. I often feel like I'm not good enough for this horse, and often when I watch him trot around, I go, oh, I wish I could sit that. Oh my goodness, someone had a big spook. I'm pretty sure there was nothing there. And you'll see we don't punish him for having a moment like that. He's a very, very sharp horse. So moments like that, you just have to go, oh, it's okay, just carry on, make nothing of it. If you do get after him, I find he gets very, very difficult, which is not what we want from him, because he can be quite stallion-y and put his foot down and say no. So in the canter, you'll notice that Andrea and I very firmly believe that you shouldn't move the head and neck too much. But in a horse like this, that they set the bottom of their neck, you often don't have much choice, because by the time they've set their neck against you, they'll just keep going on straight out the long side, out the rest of the arena. So it is sometimes a little bit necessary to move him and get him to just respect the rein and be straight in it again. And then once you've gotten that, then you can soften and he can carry himself again. And again, you'll notice that she's brought him completely off the track. She's not asking him to go towards the track. That's him trying to lean and use the track to balance himself. Again, it's such a fine balance with this horse. You have to help him because of how he's built and because of his age, but he also needs to do some of the stuff himself, and being straight is one of them. I have this every single day. If I reinforce it regularly, then obviously it gets better. But like now, he hasn't been schooled for 12 days. He's been on the lunge, I think 3 times since I broke my hand. So it's very normal for him to struggle with being straight. It's very similar to us. Whenever we go off for a bit, then we always pick up our bad habits again. Okay, so you'll notice now, this is the right canter. We just saw the left canter, and you'll notice that the right canter just naturally is better. When he was about 5 years old, little one-ton track lost control and actually hit him on the left hind, and the left hind quad actually doesn't fire as well as it should. So we do lots of static pulls to get the quad to fire. So you'll automatically notice that this canter is much more 3-beat, it's got much more jump in it. Danny's much straighter. Andrea's having to do a lot less work to get him straight, to get him through, and to get him cantering over his back. The weird thing is when we do the flying changes, the flying change from right to left is better than the flying change from left to right. We have a suspicion that that is because that the left counter canter isn't strong enough for him to do the flying change out of, but we'll still, we're working on the flying changes. So again, you'll see there the strike off to the left canter. He just wasn't quite ready for it. He couldn't bring the left hind through to just jump into canter. So again, we don't fight, we just bring him back, we just correct it. You get the left hind firing, and then you ask again. And again, there was half a stride of trot in there. It wasn't a clean transition, but it was a good transition for him. And so, when you work on transitions, every transition should be a good transition, but every good transition is also different. And I think this is the beauty of knowing your horse really well, and your instructor knowing your horse really well. This is not the first time Andrea has ridden him. She's not currently competing, and she doesn't have a permanent ride at the moment, so she's also not that riding fit. But she's got so much experience. She used to ride with the Lithuanas, and she has been riding for years. She used to show jump Gonda as well. So she's able to find him quite quickly and then to correct what needs to be corrected. So again, we're just working on basics. In that transition, you would have seen that she did a bit of shoulder fall. What tends to happen on this leg, as soon as you take the outside leg just a little bit back for the transition, he brings his quarters very, very far in, which is why he struggles to strike off. So you have to kind of bring the shoulder in so that the horse is straight in the transition. And that often means that he tends to strike off with the right hind leg. Again, you don't punish him for it because he's just doing what his body allows him to do. You just bring them back, you just ask again, and when you do get the right reaction, you praise them. I'm a big believer in positive reinforcement. He's not a mean horse. He very, very rarely does something purposefully wrong. He does things to try and make his life easier. He's quite cheeky in that sense. But he doesn't do it because he's being mean or horrible. So I see no reason in fighting with him or being mean with him or even disciplining him when he does do something that isn't 100% correct. You just bring them back, you try again, and when you do get the right reaction, you praise the right reaction. So Andrea has been saying he is very fresh. I know he doesn't look particularly fresh. He can be quite deceiving. I think often when he's very fresh, he actually backs off your leg completely and then ends up like trotting up and down rather than trotting forward. So she's actually doing a brilliant job in managing him. And there we go for a little stretch. And the problem that Danny has when he's stretching is because how he's built, he ends up becoming a bit of a steam tank. So he'll stretch and then the trot will just get faster and faster and faster. Again, Andrea lets him out and he gets the stretch going. And when he does lose his balance and the trot goes a little bit haywire, she just quietly brings him back and then lets him go again. I think he enjoys his work so much that when he is stretching, he tries to show off. It actually is one of the movements in the novice tests where you do trot them and stretch them on a long rein. Have you got a steam train? Yeah. So we always, after a session, give the horses a proper walk, just so that they can get rid of the lactic acid. So that's also why we trot them on a long stretchy rein. And then we just give them a walk so that they can just move, because often when they go back to the paddock they just kind of go stand and eat, so they don't move their muscles. And you've still got to do tomorrow and Sunday as well, so we'll see.
Guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. Don't forget to like, subscribe and buzz the bell. En onthou, kyk nooit en fok voort.